Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Hey, welcome to Business Coaching Secrets. Karl Bryan coming at you with my boy Road Dog. Road Dog, are you there, bud?
Top of the morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing fabulously, my man. We ready to rock and roll with a few business coaching secrets here today, bud? You got some questions lined up?
Always. There's no shortage of questions from all of these coaches out there in coach land. Looking for a little bit of wisdom from you this morning.
Beauty, bud. Well, I'll tell you what, my man. Let's get straight into it. Send me your first question, man. What do you want?
Okay, so this is a good one because I think this one comes up fairly regularly. So because obviously, we talk about a coach needs to deliver results quick, right? Like we just do. But like, what if, because, you run into a lot of these business owners and some of them are just real tight on cash. So how can I ensure that I can create my fees in the first 60 to 90 days?
Okay. So you're taking on a client. Basically, what we're saying is we're taking on a client. They're flat broke, and they say, "Gee, I could use some help." But
I was trying to be a little bit nicer about. They're just tight on cash and not flat broke. But yeah, still flat broke.
That's it. Okay, so here you got to. Okay, you'll often hear, like, as a coach, you should be helping your clients think strategically, because I think people naturally go to tactical. But this is an instance where you got to turn that upside down, because you can't get strategic, normally think long term, and then tactical, think short term. So you're going to have to get pretty tactical. I'd also, I think you should also be realistic. This is where, Road Dog, we're signing up the coaching client, and you really need for them to sell you versus you sell them, or that maybe better word is that you need to be sold on them. Because what's going to happen, if during the first 90 days, you do like a traditional coaching relationship where you show up once a week, you show up, you do your thing, you are not going to create these funds. You're not going to fix this problem on a 1 hour a week call, right? So in other words, you're going to have to go way above and beyond for those first 90 days to help them. But the good news is that you could be rewarded. And I've talked about this many a times, and I'll continue to talk about it, but that's how you create this really long-term kick-ass relationship, where the guys pay you for a number of years. Those first 90 days, you know what I mean? They're really, this is where you cement the thing. So where would I go? So let's talk tactics. The number one form of lead generation that they used to do, they probably no longer do. You get about a 90% predictability there. So therefore, I would go back to that, and I would re-implement it for sure. You're probably going to have yourself a lead generation sort to happen. You know what I mean? A lead generation source happening straight away. In fact, I sent out an email just within. I talked about a house cleaner strategy, where if your client doesn't have a house cleaner, right, get them to take one on. They're cash, right? But again, a house cleaner is a couple $100, so this shouldn't be a challenge. When the house cleaner is there, literally when they're there, spend those 2 hours going through the expenses. This is what the husband and wife does, as an example. And this is more on a personal level, but believe me, personal and business, in a business that's that flat broke, you know what I mean? That there's these two are going to overlap big time. So you hire a house cleaner, you come in. During those 2 hours, they sit down with their credit card statements and their expenses, and they go through them with a fine tooth and comb. Okay, they'll be blown away. Often what you're going to find is in those savings, your coaching fees are going to lie. Okay, and by the way, it's very, very powerful. Not always possible, but powerful, that when the cleaner is there, this is when they're actually doing it, right? So it could be a Saturday morning. It could be, the 2 hours that are a little bit outside the box. And believe me, most cleaners are going to agree to this to get a new client. But that's an example of something I would do. what are you going through? Like, they've got too many distributors. Like, let's say you've got a hair salon, okay, and if you walk in, they've got shampoo and conditioner, gel, wax, everything behind the pretty girl standing there selling, or ideally selling retail sales. Well, if they've got 6 labels, that means that they've got 6 deliveries, they've got 6 invoices, they've got, 6 relationships that they need to manage, et cetera, et cetera. When you're only a small little business, which likely the hair salon is, they don't need 6, different labels. Pick one, buy in bulk, build a relationship, show loyalty, get all sorts of freebies and samples. When you show that level of loyalty, you'll be surprised what the distributors all of a sudden kick into in terms of what they'll give you by way of freebies and whatnot, because they obviously appreciate the fact that you're showing some loyalty. One of the biggest challenges they have, these people have, their clients have 6 different labels, and they only get a 1/6 of the shelf space, when in actuality they're the best with the best pricing and the best organization and the best delivery, et cetera, but they're not rewarded in proportion to it. It's crazy. So, okay, when you do that, you're going to find that you're buying in bulk, so you're getting discounts. All of these things add to the bottom line. As a rule, they're not necessarily getting 90 days. They're not necessarily going to create all of your fees, but over a 12-month relationship, this is going to protect it in a very real and tangible way. Taxes, not time to go through it here, but I got to tell you, their number one expense. I can't say that. I can't say expenses without making sure you realize that taxes, like the number one expense in your life, my life, their life, anybody over the age of 18's life, is taxes. The problem is that we don't know anything about them. We just sort of see a number and then we pay it. We don't educate ourselves in any level. The accountants don't educate us. The government doesn't educate us. Normally, the reason the accountant doesn't educate you because you put them in a position where when they're doing their taxes, they're doing everybody else's damn taxes, and they don't have time to spend an extra 3 seconds with you, right? So again, it's like if I'm going to go to a government office and if it opens at 8 a.m., I am there standing and waiting at 8 a.m. Why am I doing that? Because if I go at noon, I'm going to be there for 2 hours. If I go to 8 a.m., I'm going to be first in line and I can get the damn paperwork done and get the hell out of there. It's a similar kind of dynamic. Okay, so once again, kind of falling towards the strategic side, but so important. You want to, like, people will go join and like mom will go join the MLM and sell lingerie out of the kitchen, right? That ain't make an extra 10 grand a year. When in actuality, if you educated, you don't even need to educate yourself. You just need to go through your taxes and ask some questions, and you would normally be able to find that 10 grand in 2 seconds. So again, these are things that I would be doing with my client without doubt. Time to think, again, as far as being tactical, what you do is you get your client to sit down with a piece of paper in total silence and a pen in their hand, no phone, no internet, no anything, in total solitude. And what they're doing is you give them, they get one question across the top of the page, and then they've got 30 minutes. An hour is better than 30 minutes, but often they'll feel like they can't afford an hour. You take 30 minutes, and basically all they do is they answer the question at the top of the page. Like, how can I generate more leads for my car wash, as an example? That could be an example of a question. Well, you're going to find, first of all, one of the most powerful exercises of all time. The ideas that they're going to come up with are going to be damn good. They're going to be you got to encourage them to write down horrific ones and really good ones. But if they're writing flat out for 30 minutes, believe me, some unbelievable content ends up on that page. And by the way, this can often be a great amount of, your like the coaching relationship. You just get them to take a photo of the 3 pages of notes, send it to you. You could, you go through and critique it. Basically, this is going to be content for your next 90 days to 6 months of coaching, right? And by the way, when they do that every single week, some of the answers and some of the stuff that they come up with is going to be absolutely gold. I'd also ask the question, like, I'm going a little bit deeper than I think this was intended, but like the business model that they're using, is it broken, right? And I'll give you a real simple one for the coaches out there. Like, let's say we had a grief coach, right? Well, if you're a grief coach, okay, I want to go into common sense frigging corner for a minute and understand I'm talking about business models here. So if you're a grief coach and then you're coaching me, what's the goal of the relationship? To get me out of grief. and then I no longer need you as a coach. So in other words, success of your coaching relationship means that they no longer need you, they no longer need to pay you, and you have to go find a new client, right? Like if you've got a rich husband or a rich wife and you're doing this, it's a very noble pursuit. That's fantastic. But if you're doing it as a business and trying to make some money, this is this is insanity, right? That is just never going to work. A career coach is very similar, right? So you meet somebody and they want to upgrade their career, etc., and then you help them find the job, get the promotion, etc., and then they no longer need to pay you or work with you. Doesn't make any sense. Versus business coaching. Here's an example of a like a perfect business model if you want to have recurring clients, because you see, if I was coaching your business, success would mean more revenues. More revenues would probably mean more sales. More sales would mean more products and services moved, probably mean more staff. So after you hire a staff member, do you need your coach more or less? More. After you take on that big account, do you need your coach more or less? More, right? So as the coaching relationship evolves and time marches on, they become more attached to you when done properly, that is. They need you more, not less. So that would be an example of, have a look at their business model. Another example, and an example that I would give you, like a real simple one, is if you go open up the local newspaper, you go to Craigslist, you go to wherever you want online, like online directories, you're going to see people selling dogs, like purebred dogs and whatnot, right? And obviously, there's lots of places to go and buy a dog, and a dog could cost you a few bucks, right? Like 500's an inexpensive dog nowadays. You could spend $5,000 easily. Well, they're selling dogs, but they don't sell dog food. And there is 100 times as much money in dog food than there will ever be in selling dogs, to the point where if your dog died, I would show up and give you a new dog, including a purebred, to get you to continue to buy food from me for the next number of months, quarters, or years, right? So, and then of course it's like, yeah, but they don't have how are they going to go about getting into the game of dog food, which is a totally different business. And again, this is one, but it's a business model that works. If you just sell a dog, there is no recurring revenue, and all you have to do is go find new clients constantly, right? This is not a good idea. Once somebody buys a dog, I'll give you the tip. They might buy one more, but they're not buying another dog for another 10 years, and something horrific happens. Sorry there, road dog. I get a little bit of hay fever, bud. I don't know if the pollen's flying down here.
Yeah, it's falling all the way down the hill to my house too, bud.
Okay. So the business model, like dog food, and believe me, there's think of drop shipping, there's co-packers. It's about 100 times as easy as you'd assume to get into the gig of selling dog food. In the perfect world, you'd sell the dog and the dog food. And by the way, look after the dog's health and whatnot and do health checks. But the bottom line is that if I went to my client and they were selling purebred dogs and doing okay, making $100,000 a year, if I tacked on dog food, I can tell you that their business would change, and this would be a more complicated business without question. But what they'd actually do is build an asset that they could build one day, sell one day for $1 million. And believe me, when you sell somebody the dog, and then you say, this is the perfect dog food for this dog for these reasons. We've got the puppy food, and then we've got the dog food for its life until it's 10, and then it becomes an old dog. We've got the third package, which is for older dogs. They're 10 years and above. Believe me, it's an easy sales pitch, and you just need to get their address and their credit card number, and you mail them. It's very easy to work out how much dog, like a dog eats 1 can of food a day, or a half a can of dog if it's small, right? Anyway, so just making sure that they have a business model that works. Often they don't, and you put them into that, which, by the way, is hovering on, well, this is absolutely strategic versus tactical. But at the end of the day, you just need to go in there. You need to get significantly more involved than what you normally would in a, coach-client relationship. But these are a few of the things that I would be doing. But you get in there, get them writing down, time to think, and it's like, identify the 20% of the clients that spend the most money with them, And first of all, now you probably, it's a little more complicated than this, but you probably know exactly who their ideal clients are. So it's going to be easy to target in the future, but also go sell them something, else that you know they need. Okay. And once again, I'm going to end here, Road Dog, but so let's just use a business coach as an example, because we got lots of them listening. Okay. Well, if I'm a business coach and let's say I've got 15 clients paying me $2,000 a month. Okay. So I'm doing pretty well. Why I don't need to meet the clients, know that they're all curious about social media. And, do you know what I mean? They're curious about social media, right? Okay. Well, how about I go and find a really good social media gal or guy, pay them $2,000 to show up and put together a 4-hour presentation for my client. And I will tell you that when you offer to pay somebody $2,000 for to basically speak in public, they get real warm and fuzzy and love the idea. Okay, so you're going to get somebody credible and somebody do a great job. Well, you charge your client, say, $1,000 to show up, provided 2 of the 15 say yes, you've covered your fees. If you get 4 of them to show up, you've doubled your money. If you get 6 of them to show up, you've made $4,000 just to go to your existing clients and say, look, we're putting on this social media presentation. This gal is an absolute stinking rock star. It's in 2 weeks from today. You can do it virtually from your office. So we're going to set it up on GoToWebinar or whatever virtual mechanism you use. And you just made $4,000 from your clients. And it's so easy to do. And you will be able to get somebody who's absolutely magic. And again, I don't need to meet the business owners to know that they're probably very elementary in terms of their knowledge on social media. So this is something you're going to be able to do very, very easily. So again, you could do the exact same thing, but altered, because it depends on what kind of small business owners that they're dealing with on average. But in fact, they could do they could do the equivalent of that for their client. Make sense, Road Dog?
Yeah, absolutely. When you look at just something simple, one strategy, I was working with a local barbershop, and you would think, well, how can you generate a lot more revenue for a barbershop? 2 ideas that I quickly implemented was, how often you go and get a haircut? Once a month, right? How often should you get a haircut? Once every 3 weeks. So why not auto book people every 3 weeks? But they don't do that. They're just like, okay, well, we'll see you next time, rather than go and see the girl at the front, and she'll book you in for 3 weeks from now. Just something as simple as that. And it's crazy, because when you figure that out over a year, how much more revenue you're generating per client, right? Or just having some sort of continuity program. But I was just thinking, when you said about business coaches and establishing that long-term relationship, I remember I was watching you do a presentation at one of your events in Vegas, actually, and you had this circle, and then you kept creating these larger circles around it. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yep, perfect, yep.
Like that to me was a great example of, as the business grows, the problems begin to get bigger in scale as well, and then you were there to help them over the long term with that. But anyways, not to harp on that point any longer, because you did kind of segue into something that is always being asked, and that is more social media stuff. And somebody had actually wrote in a question, said, I read an email you wrote about LinkedIn. How do you suggest I use LinkedIn to get coaching clients?
Okay. How would I do it? So value online comes in 2 forms: entertainment, education. Okay. So I feel like if you understand that that's what people are looking for and follow, make your life a whole lot easier in terms of the content that you follow or you put out. Big mistake that people make: don't just hang out with other coaches. So don't just hang out with other coaches. You need to go, like, where's your target market? Most coaches are hanging out with other coaches online, and that is fine. Like, pick 1 or 2 groups, but lock that in. That's it. And then go hang out with the business owners. So go to, there's a forum with cosmetic surgeons, and they're talking about cosmetic surgery, just different stuff in and around it. Will you go in and be the business development, the business, the lead generation, the marketing guy, the business coach in that space? providing entertainment and providing education, this is a way better use of your time. Okay, so, and then all you do, so you're like, well, what would I write? Where am I going to get the content from? Well, you take the content, you put it into a Word document, and then you constantly refer back to that Word document to copy paste, put it into the comments, and then tweak it for the individual situation or the individual question that was asked, what have you. But that way, because then you don't have to sit there, because the biggest problem is that you're using social media, you spend so much time back and forth, right? Just doesn't compute, because at the end of the day, you're like, I just spent 3 hours on social media and everybody's looking for a return. And you have to understand that social media is a long-term play, not a short-term play, right? So like Facebook and Instagram are also, if I was a business coach, I'd spend my time in 3 areas only, and that is LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, right? Facebook and Instagram are a lot more personal, very obvious, and then LinkedIn is significantly more professional. So as an example, again, if I were to do that, like if I'm a realtor, I go to Instagram and I'm putting photos of houses and local houses that are for sale and how great they look. Do you know what I mean? And what's available in different suburbs. But then on LinkedIn, what I would do is I'd put together, say, a document, because it's more professional. And I would say, these suburbs have got, like these prices last year, and then they've improved this much. So if you're looking to buy some real estate, here might be a good idea. And always remember, educating in that space, being able to educate your clients at a high level is absolutely gold. Like, see, the best time to buy real estate is during a boom. Okay, so you could go and buy a house. Like, by the way, if you live in North America, that is right now, which is normally springtime, not always, but almost always. So what you could do is, if you bought a house right now, and then there was a run up towards August, June, July, August. Well, in August, you were going to find that you have made $100,000 with your house because of the run up, right? Just a $500,000 house would become worth $600,000 by the end of the run. Well, you could go back to the bank, reevaluate the house, get another assessment, and now it's financed at a higher level. You can get your, say you put $50,000, $100,000 down, you can get the majority of your down payment back. So now you own the house and you aren't out of pocket a cent. Well, that's the kind of stuff that I would go and share on LinkedIn, right? But Facebook and Instagram, it's more photos and that sort of stuff, a much more, less professional feel. Definitely identify ideal clients. Like you want to identify ideal clients, which will assume that those are local business owners. You want to connect with them, and then you want to engage with them. Biggest mistake folks make is like, they don't want to comment, they don't want to share, they don't want to, engage. Well, if you want to, I always ask people, do you want to double your engagement on social media? I'm never going to get the answer no, right? That would be crazy. Well, then triple your activity. In other words, triple the amount of conversations you engage in, triple the amount of entertainment that you provide in those comments, and the level of education, which, by the way, is going to take some time. But do understand that LinkedIn is a long-term play. Well, social media is a long-term play. Once in a while, you'll get a client very, very quickly, and that's great. High five. But don't expect it to happen. And also know you're never going to make a $12,000, $24,000 coaching sale on LinkedIn. Just not going to happen. What you've got to do is you have to sell a phone call. Coaching is sold face-to-face and over the phone. Okay, so basically, like whatever you would say to me, I would always come back, and it would be like, I've got an idea of, in my mind, I'm always thinking 3 steps ahead strategically, right, in a tactical form in terms of an email or a message on LinkedIn, Facebook. And what I'm trying to do is convince you that we need a 15-minute phone call to discuss. And the way you can do that is a little bit longer than what we have time for here today, but I'm asking you a few questions. As a result of the answers of those questions, boom, I say, oh my gosh, that's great. I've got an idea for you. Always have an idea. If I want to get you on the phone, I tell you, I have an idea, and then I get you on the phone for 15 minutes, and basically we're off to the races, right? So yeah, the idea, so LinkedIn, but you know what I mean? But people try to drag it out a little bit too much online. You got to take it from LinkedIn to the phone take it from LinkedIn to face, like a coffee, a breakfast, one of your live events. But that you got to make sure that you're moving in that direction, right? And then also on LinkedIn, you can go to what people are talking about. So you want to go to local business owners and connect with them, right? For very obvious reasons, because these are your prospective clients, and you do want to do that. And I would encourage you to not just do that on LinkedIn, but do it Facebook, Instagram as well. And then you want to get involved with them, right? And then you can go to what people are talking about. And then you can also find, because ultimately what people are talking about, this is where there's more eyeballs. The internet is based on eyeballs. Where there is eyeballs, you've got an opportunity to make a sale. Where there's not eyeballs, you don't. Just think that's really simple. It's why the quarterback of the football team in high school is very seldom short of a date. He'd have to be a real hardcore nerd to not have a few girls wanting his attention. And why? Because he's got eyeballs on him. He's getting the ball. He's taking 3 steps back and throwing it. You're constantly looking at him. It's the same with the pitcher in baseball, and it's the lead singer of a rock band, right? So eyeballs. So what people are talking about, there's more eyeballs. So your comment, your entertainment, your education is going to get more eyeballs. It's probably going to get more engagement. It's going to get more people, thinking and interested in what you have to say. And then on that note, you also want to think about standing against versus standing for something. Okay, like just literally last week, I put something up on Facebook, and I put, my opinion: systems stifle creativity, and they do. By the way, you can argue with me till you're blue in the face, but I'm telling you, there's no way that you're going to move me off of that. Obviously, systems and processes are critical. To say that you don't, what I'm not saying is you don't need systems. I'm saying systems stifle creativity. So to get too locked into them, and we've all had that bad boss or heard of that bad boss that demands that everybody follows, X, Y, Z, and then gets pissed off, but they never take the time to actually think, well, hang on a second, could this thing, like that person that I just described, doesn't think, well, is there a way that we could actually make this better, right? No, they're more locked into making sure everybody follows the system than they are the result that you're ultimately looking for, which is more clients, more engagement with those clients, higher unit of sale, et cetera, like a better business. So I put that anyway, systems stifle creativity. And then I kind of made a little bit of a joke that the E-Myth, like Michael Gerber, the guy's never built a business, by the way, right? So he's written a book about building a business, and then he's hailed as a hero and kind of put out there like Steve Jobs, which is totally fine. I have nothing against Michael Gerber. I don't, that's fine. But the guy's never built a business. So I'm sorry. You want to be a little bit careful. When I'm going to get advice from somebody, I'm looking for wisdom. I'm looking for a guy who's actually done it. And in that instance, I think it's a great book and lots of great takeaways. I've read it a couple of times. But I can tell you that systems stifle creativity. I put that on social media, and I can tell you I had like 50, I don't remember, 50, 60, 70 comments on that post, right? So that's an example of standing against versus standing for. I say that because if you want to get eyeballs, you want to get attention, you want to get engagement, you can significantly jack that up by finding things that you stand against. So the solution to that, though, and people, people seldom, they avoid conflict like the plague. Really, this is huge sales secret right here, folks, right? In that people avoid conflict. Well, if there was ever a TV show on the planet, including Seinfeld, right, where there was no conflict within the episode, nobody's watching next week. I can tell you that. Like Bachelor. Sadly, I watched the show Bachelor and Bachelorette, which is probably telling you more about myself than I need to tell you right here. But I can tell you, like every single episode, I mean, they intentionally bring on controversial people and they intentionally draw controversy out of the guests. And if they didn't, nobody'd be watching. They most certainly wouldn't be on season 50 or whatever it is, right? Actually, it's nowhere near that, but that's fine. So standing against, though, conflict is huge. So I'm trying to sell you something, right? I'm trying to get your attention online. Conflict is a good thing, and it's part of storytelling. In fact, it's a central part of a good story. So something to think about. What else would I say? But that's what I say, boss. And eyeballs all the way, man. Eyeballs all the way.
I love the it's that success leaves clues, right? It's like, do we quote Tony Robbins like every single week? Is that a thing now? Um,
Why not?
but it's true though, right? It's the same as when you first have your kids, and next thing you know, you're getting all of this unsolicited advice. And I love it when it's especially from people that have never actually had a kid before. It's like that's
Yeah.
always a fantastic resource, right? But then it's just funny how quickly things change. But anyways, I digress. I could stand on my soapbox here for a little bit, but no one needs to hear that. All right, let's get back to coaching. So here's a great one. So I'm not a natural marketer. I hear that, man. I hear that so much, right? But my clients, they need help generating leads, driving business. So do you have a go-to strategy?
Um, okay, so they're not a traditional marketer,
Yeah, they
and
just
they're
don't.
looking to.
Yeah, they don't feel their skills are the strongest when it comes to that. So they're like, what would be a good go-to strategy that Carl would use to quickly drive in some business and drive in some leads?
Okay, so what I would say is, I go to this. In fact, and this is shamelessly taken straight from Russell Brunson. So a three-step formula that I think will work really, really well for somebody who's not as good at marketing. Hook, story, offer. 1, 2, 3. I'd encourage you to write those down. Number one, hook. Number two, story. Number three, offer. If you want to market something, this is what you've got to do. Let's talk about the hook specifically. So what I used to do traditional, I used to do like, we'll call it traditional internet marketing, like driving traffic, buying ads, doing joint ventures, affiliate agreements, and then sending people to membership sites. And then I'd plug them into membership sites. Well, I knew that in order for that to, in order to get people to engage online and most importantly, give me their credit cards and that make some money, I was going to have a really kick-ass hook. So number one hook is, or the one that I used when I got started with that, but that's where we need to start, is how I earned $187,000 in my first 9 months online as a coach. Okay, so that was number one. And then I put, hundreds of people into my membership site at $100 a month. I used a strategy called free plus shipping with forced continuity. Again, no time to kind of go through that, but just in a nutshell, free. The book is free. The DVD was free. Plus shipping, they'd have to pay me $10 to box it up and send it out. And then with forced continuity is that you would automatically go into my $97 a month membership. Okay, so free plus shipping with forced continuity, that's $100 a month. So I followed that first one up with how I generated 250 hot new coaching leads in 90 days using Google. Right, boom. And you could imagine if you're a coach and you heard those two hooks, I'd be amazed if you probably wouldn't give me your email address at a minimum, and quite likely your credit card to say, yeah, I want to have a look at how you go about doing this and the step-by-step process that you have provided. So for our coaches, what we do, the hook that we provide is I can find any small business owner $100,000 in 45 minutes without you spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. Again, absolutely bulletproof and works gangbusters. So that, and again, that is a hook, and then that leads you to the ability to tell the story. I think the story and the offer, we're going to go through at a later date, but this person that's listening and somebody who says, self-describes himself as somebody who's not good at marketing, you've got to make sure that you've got that hook nailed, is what I would say. And that's going to allow you, because if you're not really good at sales and you're in coaching, I would be amazed if I didn't meet you and then you were the kind of person that wanted to give, and help, right? And that you were an excellent coach, but you probably just stunk at the sales process at the beginning, okay? So that hook will be incredibly valuable for you. And again, and how, so, but like, let's say you're at a networking function and you're like, well, how am I going to get these people from the networking function? There's 25 of them. There's one of me. How could I get these guys engaged? Well, if you moved around that room using the context of where you're at, right? We talked about LinkedIn earlier and being more professional on LinkedIn than you are on, say Facebook and Instagram. Well, when I'm at networking function, I'm going to operate a little bit differently than if I'm at a live event with a heavyweight speaker and 1,000 people in the room. So like if you were at a networking function, you said, I can help any business owner form 3 profitable relationships at every 1-hour networking function they attend. Okay, well, I don't know. I've never done that. I don't think. No, I've never done that. But I'd be amazed if I moved around the room and I said it with some moxie and with some mojo. This would be a hook that would pull people in. So that's an example of how I would adjust it. But if you look at how I earned, how I earned $100,000 or $197,000, how I earned $187,000 my first 9 months online as a coach, it follows a very almost the exact same format as how to form 3 profitable relationships at every 1-hour networking function you attend, right? So that's what I would say to that is understand hook, story, offer. Story simply is just telling the story of what it is that, you have and how it solves a problem that they have, that they just presumably have. And if they don't have it, they're not going to buy it, by the way. And then the offer is your offer where, you're going to be for $1,000 a month, they're going to buy your coaching, and then you're going to ham that up and, frame it in such a way that they can't live without it, right? So you need to take some time. You need to have a slide deck. Whenever you go to sell something, especially something like coaching, you should have a slide deck, okay, where what I mean by a slide deck is just picture a PowerPoint slide where number 1 pops up, number 2 pops up, number 3 pops up, number 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then boom, then you tell them the price. You don't tell them the price before you outline exactly what it is that they're going to get. So again, that would be offer number 3. But we could go more in depth at a later time for that. But number 1, somebody who's coming to me and saying they're not a natural marketer, I'd spend a lot of time in step number 1.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's good, man. I it's so funny that you say that never discussed the price before. How many times have I been guilty of that? Holy smokes. Just like I remember when that $100,000 presentation that you're referring to, I don't know how many, when you're talking story, I would imagine the story there would be like case studies and things like that. Never give them the case study of their own business before they pay you. And there's a brutal mistake that I made.
Yeah. Well, let's just go through that. It's important, right? Because if you're sitting with a dentist and then you explain, if you just sit there and give them examples of things that other dentists have done, well, if he's tried something in the past, which is have a reasonable probability, if he's heard of somebody else trying something in the past, if somebody's sent him an email that he read 3 months ago on how XYZ doesn't work, and then you're put it in front of him and tell him that it works, he's already got this paradigm where he's like, nah, you know what I mean? Like he's got these strong walls, and you don't want to push walls down when you're trying to sell something. So if I'm sitting with a dentist, I would use an example of a different industry, something we did with a landscaper, and then give it to him in a lesson in that here's how we did it for them. Or a really good one is a daycare. Like if you had a daycare and I had a daycare, understanding that accountability is mom's major issue. Well, if you had a daycare and I had a daycare, and your daycare had a web watch where mom could watch all day and make sure that the kids were safe and having fun and just missing the kids wildly, and she could jump on the internet and watch them, and then at the other daycare they couldn't, where would you send your kid? Well, if you ask 100 people that question, 98, and I don't even know why the other 2 wouldn't pick it, but 98 are going to say the daycare with the web watch. And of course the dentist goes, oh yeah, well that's a home run for sure. We say, well, we're going to work together and we're going to create the equivalent of the web watch for you. And then you move on. But you don't give it to him right there, because if he doesn't love the first one, and there's a decent chance that your first one might not be the home run or the one that you're thinking of, or again, he's got some crazy wall up where he doesn't think that's going to work, you just lost the sale. So that's why you're talking to a mortgage broker, you talk about and it's not that you don't give them examples. You obviously still talk about mortgage brokers, but some of your secret sauce and your educational type information that you're going through in the sales process, you got to make sure that's outside the niche. That's critical.
Yeah. Perfect, my friend. Well, you know what? I'm going to take it easy on your sinuses today because I know that you are dying over there with all this pollen and everything in the air. So I think we should wrap. That was amazing as per usual, by the way, content. And then we'll carry forward a bunch of these questions to next week's broadcast. And and we'll sort of, what do you think of that?
That sounds good, bud. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate everybody being here as per always. Sorry for slight delay getting us going, but there we go, folks. Let's go kick some butt. Appreciate you being on Business Coaching Secrets, and we will see you guys next week.
Make it a great week, everybody.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at Focused.com.